What's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the FCS Dynasty here on NCAA 2006, and also featuring the NCAA Next mod, as well as we are getting to about a third of the way through the regular season, and things are certainly starting to heat up. Got some great action for you guys here today, multiple top 25 matchups throughout the NCAA, so it's going to be a good one here, man. Make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button if you do happen to be brand new. We will start with our very first matchup of the game of the week. We got Mid-Tennessee State taking on North Texas. Now, these two conference teams did go up against each other in the regular season last year, and North Texas won at Mid-Tennessee State. And the Blue Raiders, who, even though they started the year undefeated, or not undefeated, but unranked, they are currently undefeated, and they're going to be looking for some revenge against the 15th ranked Mean Green. And starting off on a high note, as well as the Blue Raiders are going to take a 7-0 lead here early, as Neely's going to drop a bomb down the right-hand side. His receiver, though, he's going to do the rest of the work, as he's going to walk his way into the end zone. Touchdown, North Texas. Using those new uniforms, they are looking mad clean, and that is going to be a mad nice touchdown to go with it. North Texas drawing even, all knotted up at 7 apiece, but the Blue Raiders, they are on the verge of retaking the lead themselves and finding his tight end in the back of the end zone. Really nice touch pass to get it from those two North Texas defenders. I mean, the coverage was solid in this one. I mean, I can't even be mad about the coverage. But that being said, North Texas, they're going to take that lead, a 1-point lead for the Blue Raiders here on the road, and looking to extend it. Hill looking over the left-hand side. He's going to throw a dot over the middle to the tight end, and he threw it up there, pulled some Patrick Mahomes like, screw it. Tyreek or Travis Kelce is down there somewhere, and the jump ball goes the way of the Blue Raiders, as that ends up being yet another touchdown. It still makes it a one-possession game, 8-point difference, but give yourself a little bit of breathing room there, as they're looking to extend this lead some more. As the tailbacks, he's going to take it to the outside. He's got some space. He may not be no Ivan Jenkins, but he's got some wheels on him as well. The defense cannot catch up on the way to a 58-yard touchdown run, as Mid-Tennessee State, they continue what has been a surprisingly great season for them. They will improve to 5-0 there, as they take down North Texas on the road for the game of the week. And look at that, North Texas, you know, they've had a brutal schedule. They have been in multiple games of the week already this season, and they have they have really struggled through it. All of their games have been games of the week. So North Texas, starting off in the top 10, but now they might potentially be in danger now of falling out of the top 25 completely. So we'll see if that game could also live up to the other games in this episode, as we take a look at some teams that are in the top 25 for the very first time. For example, we do have South Carolina State making its first ever appearance in the AP Top 25 here in this FCS series. They are going to be starting conference play against one of the bottom feeders within their conference, the Howard Bison, who currently they're still looking for their first win of this second season here of this FCS series, and not where you want to go, right? South Carolina State, they've been on a roll. They got them biscuits out. So we'll see how South Carolina State, see if they take Howard seriously, or could Howard sneak in an upset win. But it looks like early on, South Carolina State, they know what they're doing. Get a nice run to that looks like the fullback, who's able to get it for a nice chunk of yardage. Although they do not have a good offense, this offense ranked 90th in the country, As now we'll see McDougal fake the play action, almost get sacked off rip, but instead he's going to be able to fire a rocket down the sideline, and that is going to go for a really nice gain. That's the wheel route in full effect, and it puts the Bulldogs in the red zone looking for a chance to take the lead. Someone's going to be taking the lead, but it's not who you think it is. Mama, there goes that man, as that is going to be a touchdown for Jason Boyd, the strong safety for the Bison. And Howard, who was ranked in the bottom 10 nationally in this FCS universe, they take an early 7-0 lead, and we'll see if Charles McDougal can get his guys back on track, but instead gonna throw yet another red zone interception. That's Jamal Lewis, who also is able to go ahead and intercept that quarterback. So an early 7-0 deficit for the Howard Bison, as it looks like South Carolina State, you're struggling to get things going on the offensive end, as we see Charles McDougal, who has been solid over the course of this season so far, having a really rough game to start things out. I mean, we're talking about the third interception that this guy has thrown, and we're not even out of the first quarter yet. So, very good start. We'll see if Carlson Saturday can get his guys going. Going to hand it off to the tailback. This tailback's got some room to scoot. One man left the beat, as brought down at the very last seconds. But Jeremy Smith, though, averaging 49 yards a carry, as his second carry almost able to take it to the crib right there. He was just a little bit short. Thought he was going to take that for yet another touchdown, but still prime field position for Carlson Saturday. One of your guys' custom prospects right away, and listen, he did all the work to get it into the red zone, so you might as well reward the guy, and it ends up being yet another touchdown for the Howard Bison, as those upset alert bells, they might be ringing early, as there's a 14-0 lead for the Bison. We'll see if South Carolina State can come back and respond, as we do have a little bit of a change at quarterback, as McDougal does end up getting benched. So now this is the backup coming in and taking over, as he leads a successful drive once he comes into the game. South Carolina State will bring it back to just a touchdown gain. We'll see if Howard can keep the pressure up, though, as Saturday he is going to get lit up like a Christmas tree, and that's the problem with Howard, just not giving their true freshman enough time to read the defense. I mean, the difference between a high school and college game is already bad enough, but when your offensive line is not making those protections for you, it gets a little bit more difficult. Yet here we go, Saturday able to make some good throws down the field, as he's able to, rope this one for a really good gain there. And Howard with yet another chance to add some more points onto the board, or at least in field goal range. We'll see if they can add on to it, as Saturday looks to the left. He's going to throw it out to the tailback. The tailback, though, fumbles the football, and South Carolina State is going to recover. Oh, no, you had a chance to have a 2-score lead going to halftime, and you fumbled the ball in the red zone. That's how you end up 0-3 to start the season. Little plays like that. And now the Bulldogs with a chance to tie this game before we go into that halftime locker room. As we'll see this quarterback drop back. No, he's going to actually run it. Read option. Breaks the tackle. And now it's a foot race. The linebackers, they can't keep up. And he is gone like a girl in a country song. And all of a sudden, this game is all tied up. That fumble turns into a 14-point swing, if you think about it, in favor of the Bulldogs. And it is all nice and even going into halftime. And it looks like South Carolina State is going to maintain that momentum, as after a Howard freeing out, we got the special teams now getting a little bit more involved. And that special teams play gives the Bulldogs their first lead of the day, but it's not just one special teams. You want to talk about 2 special teams? I didn't know we were in a Drake song, because this man is going to go back to back. Last 2 returns turns into 2 touchdowns. Oh my goodness. You want to talk about a great value brand? Devin Hester. We might have one here for the Bulldogs. And oh boy, don't make it free. Don't make it free touchdowns in a single game. Will they learn? It looks like they have not. A little bit step back cheese here. And all of a sudden, the special teams turns this from a close game that Howard could possibly win to possibly making it completely out of reach. 35-14 now. And it looks like Carlos Saturday did get a little bit shaken up. So starting backup quarterback Wilson O'Donnell, who does also happen to be a custom player. You know, he's in the game and just, you know, he's not making mistakes. The players around him are making mistakes. You know, Howard just doesn't have any of the really supporting cast that they need to compete in this conference. I mean, it's a pretty top-heavy conference. Reminds you of the actual ACC. I mean, you're talking about, you know, James Madison, New Hampshire, you know, South Carolina State possibly being on that level as well. And then, of course, you have the rest of the conference, which is very mid, to say so, if I had to say so myself. But that being said, South Carolina State has a chance to, you know, put this game away, and it looks like they are going to be doing exactly just that, as a little bit of speed option action over the left-hand side is going to make this a 42-14 victory. And you know, like Howard, you know, they was firing on all cylinders. They threw some good punches early, but they just did not have the talent on the depth charts to compete with the Bulldogs. And South Carolina State, they are going to go ahead. They put up 42 unanswered points after being down 14-0 early, right? So, you know, a disappointing finish for the Howard Bison as they fall to 0-4. South Carolina State, though, they should remain in that top 25. They improved to 4-0, and, you know, within that Coastal Division, they are well within that race. Speaking of the ACC conference, let's check on another game within the conference that does feature a top 25 team. We got the New Hampshire Wildcats, who made it to the FCS playoffs. Of course, they are taking on Delaware State, which, despite being in week number 5, Delaware State has only played 1 game total so far. It's a little bizarre, actually. You know, with the lack of games Delaware State has played early, it's almost like they loaded all of their bye weeks early. Which, if that's how it like shook out for the schedule, you know, that's a really tough look. But they got to go up against New Hampshire. They should be well rested, and they're going to need that if they're going to contain Carlos Montoya. Was a Heisman finalist last year, but one way you can contain a New Hampshire offense is just make sure they don't get the football, and that's not how you do it. You don't fumble the football to them. And now New Hampshire, they're going to start their very first drive of this ball game practically in Delaware State territory. You can't make this up. They're going to drive downfield. They're going to get a field goal. So New Hampshire, they're going to be up 3-0 early. No huge surprises here whatsoever. As now Delaware State, they're going to, you know, take this kickoff, and they fumble it again. Another fumble that they also end up losing as well. And you're just begging New Hampshire to blow you out of the building, man. Like, you can't do that against the number 4 team in America. That's not a winning formula for success. Like, come on now. Like, you know, I thought we knew a little bit better than that, but apparently we didn't. Running back, by the way, had a clean hole and, you know, missed that. Still got the touchdown anyways. That's just how the talent difference between Delaware and New Hampshire. But hang on now. Delaware State, they're going to get a touchdown. It turns into a pick-6. This is the 5th interception thrown by Carlos Montoya. Nice job staying in bounds, by the way. It ends up being just a field goal game. So Delaware State still in it despite the early mistakes. But Carlos Montoya is going to get his guys going here. He's going to throw this thing to the end zone and finds the senior wide receiver, Bobby Young. He's going to make this 17-7. And now we see this team. Oh, get off me, bro. He just stiff-armed a couple of people into the next dimension on the way to the end zone. And this was the type of team that we were looking for. We didn't really see it earlier in the season against University of Missouri, Kansas City, but this offense, as this season has gone along, they're starting to find that rhythm a little bit more, and those concerns that they had earlier, seems to be dissipating as even their defense is standing up and playing terrific football. Brandon Terrell, he's going to get the fumble recovery, and it sets up another possibly easy drive for the Wildcats, as Montoya is going to fake the handoff all the time in the world. I could make a sandwich in that pocket, and he's going to find his receiver deep downfield, and it sets up yet another red zone opportunity for the Wildcats. Second and short. We'll see if they can punch it in. No, it's going to be a handoff. No, it's going to be a reverse pass to the other side, and it's going to be a touchdown for the Wildcats. Talk about an early 30-burger. We certainly got one right here, but it doesn't. All that pain and suffering doesn't even end here in the first half, as we got about 30 seconds left to play. New Hampshire did use their last timeout. Almost managed to get that block. They were really close, but we're going to see this receiver take this thing all the way into the end zone, and it's yet another touchdown for New Hampshire. It ends up being a 38-7 affair here, guys. So just blowing the doors off of their conference opponent. You absolutely, love to see it. If you are a New Hampshire fan, of course, if you're, rooting for Delaware State, not so nice, right? But once again, yet another turnover. That's been the story of the day. 4 turnovers against number 4 team in the country. Just not what you want to see, as Montoya will drop back again after the turnover. He's going to toss this thing towards the end zone, and he's going to get yet another touchdown. We got a 40-burger on the board for New Hampshire, as this game has indeed officially gotten out of hand, as New Hampshire is going to march on. They win huge in this one, 66-7, proving why they're a top 5 team in America. But now we move from one part of the country to completely opposite side of America here. We have the Idaho Vandals, who, just hop into that top 25, ranked number 24 in the country, taking on the number 5 ranked Utah State Aggies, who, are just playing their very first conference game of the season. A team that made a very deep run into the FCS playoffs back in season number 1. So we'll see if they can live up to those expectations once again. But first, they got to take care of business against Idaho. Obviously, every game mattering. As it's been a pretty quiet first half, though, neither team getting to the end zone until just less than a minute left to play here in this first half. We see a very nice touchdown run that allowed the Utah State Aggies to take a 10-6 lead here early. As now we'll go ahead and see Saturday drop back for the Aggies. Going to throw across his body. He's actually going to find his receiver, and that is going to be another touchdown for Utah State, as that is going to make it a 17-6 lead now, as Slater had plenty of time in the pocket, rolled to his right a little bit, and turns that into another touchdown. Although it does remain a 17-6 game for a while, but we'll start to see these Aggies pull away here in the second half, as we see the tight end actually start to get a little bit more involved. He's going to go ahead, dump it off, fakes the block for a little while, and then leaks out. 24-6 lead for Utah State. And to top it all off, running back's going to get a hard run out onto the perimeter. Another score for Utah State, as they are going to run away with this game here in the second half. They're going to win 31-6, and Utah State is going to remain undefeated for the time being. Utah State, meanwhile, or not Utah State, Idaho, who actually is now in the FCS for real, they will fall down to 2-2 on the season. It will likely be on the outside looking in terms of being in that AP top 25, but we will wait until that top 25 poll is released until that is completely confirmed. So we'll keep it out in the Northwest as we will see the Sacramento State Hornets take on the number 12 ranked team in America down the FCS level, the Montana Grizzlies. And that $1 million question is, how does Montana respond after getting absolutely raw dogged by Southeast Missouri State? They were at this very stadium in the previous episode where they lost by 45 to that team, and it all happened in the first half. And it has to start with Derek Keefe, right? Derek Keefe, guy that, had some expectations. He was hurt a lot last year, and I don't know if he's still trying to find that rhythm or what, but 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, that's not going to cut it for a team that was a quarterback away probably from going to the national championship game. If he was healthy the entire game, they could have very well beat Kent State. But, it is what it is. It has to be left in the past of year number 1. As Sacramento State's got something going here early. Some chance maybe to get some early points. But we see a fumble on the field. And St.Thomas is going to get that TFL. And that will go ahead. And that will give Montana some actual field position to work with. But they cannot convert. So now Sacramento State, they had a free and out, still tied up at zeros apiece, but we will finally see the goose egg cracked on the scoreboard as we'll see a punt return for a touchdown. So special teams playing a role in that very first score of the game for Montana, but we will see Montana miss the extra point. So instead of it being a 7-0 game, it ends up being a 6-0 game, but also see it becoming a multi-possession lead for the Grizzlies on Montana as the defense starts to step up, knowing that, hey, they're not getting as much from their quarterback as maybe what they would be accustomed to seeing, right? Just hasn't happened yet. So a 13-0 lead for Montana as their defense continues to be absolutely suffocating as we are hardly halfway through this first quarter so far, and this defense has already forced 3 turnovers. What you want to see the week after getting absolutely pummeled by Southeast Missouri State, giving up 45. But we'll see if this offense can pick some things up as they are one of the worst teams in third downs, only at 26% on the year. We'll see if Derek Keefe can help with that a little bit, but instead is going to end up being intercepted. And now Sacramento State possibly with a chance to get back into this game as Carlos Smart is able to pick off Derek Keefe. That does end up being the 6th interception thrown already. And just a terrible touchdown to interception ratio for Keefe so far. But Sacramento State cannot capitalize as, listen, Keefe hasn't been doing things well in the air, but what about on the ground? He had a big play at first. He fumbles that as well. So just a tough day for really both offenses here. I mean, still not even through the first half yet. Both teams have turned the ball over 3 times. It's been a turnover fest. Someone forgot to tell them, you're on national TV, my guy. I don't know what to tell you, but 16-0 game here. Derek Keefe does have the ball back in his hands here in the 4th quarter as Keefe is going to go ahead, throw this towards the end zone. Well, not towards the end zone, but it's still a pretty deep throw. You like to see that. And that does put Montana in a position to maybe get some more points on the board here a little bit. Put this game away as we are now in the 4th quarter. As Keefe will he's going to pass it. He's going to throw it into the end zone, and it will be caught. Touchdown, Montana. And the Grizzlies looks like they just might be going ahead and putting this thing away as that touchdown now makes it a 23-0 affair, and that does indeed end up being that final score. Still not very convinced about this Montana offense. Would love to see a little bit more from them, considering, the offense was what honestly costed them an opportunity to go to the national championship game last year. But they're still going to enjoy this victory. They took care of business against Sacramento State, even though it wasn't the prettiest game on the face of the earth. 23-point win. Montana will improve to 2-1. So the next game on the docket is a top 25 matchup all the way in the fields of Midwestern America. We got two teams from the Buckeye State as the number 17 ranked Ohio Bobcats go on the road, and they will go up against the defending national champions in this FCS universe, the Kent State Golden Flashes. That's when you know you're playing a video game, folks, when Kent State wins a national championship in anything. No offense to those that are Kent State alumni that are maybe watching this episode, man, but Kent State's doing good, and because of the version 9 of the NCAA Next mod, both Ohio and Kent State did get some updated looks, which Kent State's particularly, I really like Kent State's uniforms in this game, man. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Those look really good. Ohio's is not much different, but they haven't changed their uniform in years. But they're gonna change the scoreboard though, as Ohio, the Bobcats, the underdog Bobcats, are going to actually strike first here. They are going to take a 7-0 lead here early, doing it off of the kick return. So putting the pressure early on the Golden Flashes, as Tyler Williams, he's going to fire this one out to the sideline and actually finds a receiver. One man left to beat, and he just does not have that foot speed. A 73-yard touchdown pass that represents a man being gone like a girl in a country song, as it is now all knotted up at 7 apiece now. So we got a pretty good game on our hands right now, living up to the expectations. But a bunch of field goals for Kent State, as, you know, it was one of those games where, you know, this game could have been possibly put away sooner, possibly not, but that was actually only the second touchdown scored in the entire game. The Golden Flashes did have to go ahead and settle for a bunch of field goals in this one, but everyone else played lights out in this one, man. Just Ohio seems like they were just completely outclassed, as after the extra point ends up being kicked here, it ends up being a 36-10 game. I mean, look at this. The linebacker even getting a spin move out there. When you see that from a linebacker, not very often, I'll tell you that much, as Kent State proving that they are more than capable of going out there and defending their national championship crown that they rightfully earned from season number 1. They did it, you know, without even having to play a home game. You know, that's the crazy part. They were never at any point considered the home team. And Kent State continues their longest winning streak in college football. It's extended to 8 games thanks to a 52-10 victory. So this takes us, we'll keep it in the Midwest as we now check in on Southeast Missouri State, who is ranked number 19 in the country. They are taking on a winless Western Kentucky team. Now, Western Kentucky, they did come in here to this season with some expectations. The 0-2, not what they were looking for necessarily, but conference play is starting up. And, you know, if you can win your conference, no matter how good or bad you are, you will be in the FCS playoffs. So that's conference play, obviously the most important thing. We'll see if Southeast Missouri State can, you know, maintain, you know, keeping track of business, or, you know, we're going to have a huge letdown here. Remember, this is the very team that blew out Montana on the road as well. So definitely a very good reason to, you know, maybe circle this as a potential trap game, just so that, you know, they just had that huge emotional win. We'll see, though. Definitely a lot of football left to play, as West Kentucky's going to take this punt return. We got a lot of space here out on the sideline, and this man is going to be gone. Touchdown, Hilltoppers, and that is actually the longest punt return of the entire season so far. That was actually, there was an 85-yarder earlier this year, back in week number 1 when Southern Utah went up against Princeton, but either way, early lead here for the Hilltoppers. But Glenn Williams, man, he's not going to, sit back and, let his team get upset after all that work that they did to get into the top 25 in the first place, as they are down 10-0 early. Actually, this is the third quarter. There's not a lot happening in this game, but Scott Parrish is going to run his way into the end zone. It's a touchdown for the Red Hawks. It does end up cutting this game down to just a field goal, as now Williams going to drop back the pass, throw it over to the left-hand side, gets it out to his receiver, almost managed to break it to the crib, but I'm sure they'll be more than happy with the long gain here anyways, as that will now be a red zone opportunity for the Red Hawks. They're 1 for 2 on such chances here in this ball game. The first chance to take the lead here, as Williams is going to roll to his right, throw this towards the end zone, and that is going to be incomplete there. Nice job on the coverage. And now the Red Hawks 2nd and 10. We'll see if they try something different here, as Williams is going to continue to throw it. This time finds his slot receiver, and that is going to give the Red Hawks a lead that they are going to go ahead and work with now. Make that 14-10 after the extra point attempt is good, as that was thrown just over the outstretched arms of the linebacker there. So now the Red Hawks with a 14-10 lead here. We'll see if they can go ahead and take some control, as they are just outside of the red zone, as Williams throws to the right hand side and finds his receiver. Once again, another touchdown for Southeast Missouri State. That now makes it 21-10. And also, if I sound a little bit different, I do apologize. Just coming off of COVID, man, that is not something that y'all should be messing with. So, gotta make sure to be safe. But with that being said, these guys obviously not affected by the COVID protocols, as we see a huge play downfield that makes it just a one-possession game now. Western Kentucky, they are hanging in there, and they're playing tough, man. You don't want to start 0-3 if you're trying to make it into the FCS playoffs. Put you in a really big bind, even with 24 teams ultimately being selected. But they go for the 2-point conversion. That does end up being no good as well. So it ends up being, instead of being a 3-point game, it ends up being a 5-point game. So if Western Kentucky, on top of, needing some stops on defense, they're going to have to need another touchdown, which Western Kentucky has struggled with to a degree. They have really struggled with scoring, and that's why, huge reason why they're 0-2 on the season so far. We'll see if Southeast Missouri State can go ahead and put them away. 2 for 4 on the red zone opportunities, and gonna go ahead and get it out to the fullback, and that fullback is going to punch it into the end zone. Touchdown, Red Hawks, as that does make it, should put it away. But Western Kentucky, they are going to at least try to go ahead and make things a little bit more interesting here, as this receiver is going to take it all the way into the end zone. Even's going to strut his stuff down the sideline. Ends up being yet another touchdown. They go for 2. They don't get it, and that is as close as Western Kentucky is going to get. So, Southeast Missouri State, they were certainly tested there for sure. They were pushed towards the end, but the Red Hawks, they do find a way to eke it out in the second half. They pull away a little bit. Not the impressive win. A little bit of letdown, obviously, compared to what they did against Montana in the previous episode. But needless to say, Southeast Missouri State, they will remain undefeated, 3-0, while Western Kentucky is going to have to ask some uncomfortable questions after a slow 0-3 start to the year. So with the college football season heating up, we have seen some incredible matchups so far, and that is not limited to just the gameplay, as we had some shocker results here in simulation. So let's go ahead and jump around and see what's going on, starting with Western Carolina getting upset by Eastern Washington, led by starting quarterback Carl Falzon. He leads the Eagles to their first victory of the season against the number 21 team in the FCS, Western Carolina, and a disappointing performance for the Catamounts as they take their first loss of the year. Meanwhile, for UNLV, they are still reeling from their Week 2 loss to St. Thomas. They've hosted the Kangaroos of UMKC, who we did see have a competitive game against New Hampshire. It was also somewhat competitive here as the Kangaroos fall 41-23, still looking for that first win. As for Georgia Southern, we saw them go on the road against the Paladins of Furman, and Georgia Southern comes out on top, winning 42-24 in this one. The Eagles back to 500 after their 0-2 start. As for San Diego State, we had a little bit of a shootout in the fields of Iowa, as Northern Iowa did their best to keep up, but just could not put enough points on board, losing 63-31 against number 2 team in college football. San Diego State still undefeated at 4-0. As for Ball State, they had a much easier time as well, going on the road to play against the winless Illinois State squad. They win 45-0, also remaining undefeated so far this season. As for Akron, the same circumstance for them in MAC play, as they went on the road to play against Southern Illinois. A slightly more competitive game, as it ends up being a 31-14 win in favor of the Akron Zips. Central Michigan, meanwhile, another conference matchup. The Sycamores of Indiana State, after starting the year off 2-0, dropped their next 2 games here as they lose 45-10 to the number 8 team in all of college football. Now, what is going on down here with this Delaware squad as they fall to 1-3? They lose to a winless Bethune-Cookman squad 34-3. Definitely a head scratcher, which could suggest that the Atlantic Division in the ACC is certainly wide open, but we got to check out those standings after this next game. Meanwhile, the Tulane Green Wave suffered their first loss of the season in an upset as Southeastern Louisiana gets back to 500. Not an impressive win by a final score of 28-25. Good win for the Lions. As for UMass, they go on an absolute revenge tour. After they lost their first game to Murray State, they beat Sanford handily 47-10, which begs the question, when is UMass finally going to get ranked? Because certainly they 100% deserve it. As for Troy, they are also asking that same question themselves after a blowout win against the Hampton Pirates. Hampton still looking for their first win, losing 43-3. As for UCF, they continue their march through this college football season, improving to 4-0 thanks to a 39-27 victory over the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana Lafayette. Stephen F. Austin also not wasting too much time as they start conference play against the Golden Eagles of Oral Roberts, winning 41-7. Stephen F. Austin now 2-1, while the Eagles still search for that first win of the season. ECU almost getting upset after earning that number 1 ranking, though, as they went on the road to play against the Towson Tigers, and the Tigers nearly pulled it off, just losing by a field goal. The Pirates definitely getting a scare in this circumstance. Meanwhile, for San Jose State, they will get to 500 as St. Thomas still looking for their first win since that number 1 victory over UNLV. St. Thomas since that game 0-3 as the Tommies get blown out here against the Spartans of San Jose State. Denver, meanwhile, looking surprisingly good here early on in the year. They go on the road against Southern Missouri State, blow them out 30-0, and that will get the Pioneers to 2-2 on the year. Southern Missouri State now 1-2. William & Mary also having a pretty difficult schedule as of late, facing their second top 25 opponent in 2 weeks, and they dropped this one as well, losing to Rice 22-14. SMU also still remaining in the top 25 despite a pretty difficult loss, but that being said, they should remain in the top 25 after a 35-16 win over the Huskies of Northeastern University. So the final game that we have here in this episode, we got James Madison starting off their, technically starting off their conference play. They did play against New Hampshire last week. They are taking on Florida A&M. Now, Florida A&M, they actually have the most custom prospects out of anybody in the FCS. They actually have a total of 5 custom guys. So, hopefully get a chance to see 2 or 3 of them, make some plays. But also got to remember at the end of the day, it might be about Kenny Raymer, man. Kenny Raymer, we know, is a very special, very talented quarterback who had a little bit of off time against New Hampshire. We'll see if he can bounce back here as Raymer actually is going to fumble the football early here, and Florida A&M is actually going to recover the fumble. And how about just some premium field position to work with, starting off inside the 20-yard line. You absolutely love to see that. We'll see if the Florida A&M can take advantage, as sure enough, we got a touchdown from none other than Benito Zimmerman, the custom true freshman, who's going to give Florida A&M an early 7-0 lead. You love to see it as Florida A&M tries to build off of that lead, but Chris Washington is going to get the interception. It's his second interception of the season. Now, Florida A&M, they did lose Josh Hutchinson to the NFL. He was the starting quarterback for the Rattlers last year, and they could not get anybody notable from either the transfer portal or get anybody from recruiting, the high school ranks. So their starting quarterback, I believe, is like a 59 or 62 overall. Clearly not remotely in the same level as James Madison's quarterback, Kenny Raymer, as he's able to nod this thing up at 10 apiece. Still a close game, though, so maybe Florida A&M showing a little bit of progress, except they kicked it to the 5-star true freshman, Jody Gentry, who's going to take it all the way down the sideline, and they are going to take the lead, make that 17-10, as Florida A&M is going to try to get some points before the end of the first half, but unfortunately, that is also going to be intercepted, and not only intercepted, that man's going to be gone like a girl in a country song, as the Dukes of James Madison make it a 24-10 affair here at home, as Ep.6 gives the Dukes plenty of momentum going into halftime. Although Florida A&M, they do start with the football first, they can't do anything with their first possession, so they got to punt the football away, and they make the same mistake, punting it to Jody Gentry. You do not punt this kid. Such a special true freshman, probably one of the best impact players. You want to talk about like best freshman, Jody Gentry certainly has to be on that list. He's been making a huge impact for one of the best teams in FCS college football. As speaking of Jody Gentry, how about him right there? Huge catch down the sideline, keeps his feet in bounds to have it considered a catch. And now in Florida A&M territory again, Raymer gonna throw over the middle, gets it out to the veteran, Maurice Gray. And Maurice Gray is able to win off of that vertical pattern. That makes it 41-10 right now. So, Florida A&M, they were able to keep it a little bit close in the first half, but that's not happening here in this second half. The Dukes are definitely running away with it here, as Maurice Gray is going to notch yet another touchdown. Is going to make it 48-10 after the extra point does end up being kicked as well. A great day all around by the offense, as the Dukes march to another huge win. They recover well, winning 55-10. So guys, we are now officially a third of the way through the season. And while conference play is kind of in its infancy here for her season number 2, I do want to go ahead and check out what these conference standings are going to be looking like. Of course, we know that the Coastal Division is a 2-team race. Well, it could be a 2-team race, but Norfolk State, they are also 1-0 in conference play. At the moment, their only win coming within the conference. And then, of course, we do see New Hampshire. They are in the driver's seat right now, sitting at 2-0. And unless they have a couple of stumbles, I expect them to make the conference championship game with James Madison on their heels. We'll see if Hampton, North Carolina A&T, or Delaware State can kind of work themselves back into the race. Meanwhile, for the Atlantic Division for the ACC, things get a little bit more interesting. It seems like it's going to be a little bit more open of a conference division this year. We saw Delaware win last year, but only 1-3 so far, including a huge loss to Bethune-Cookman that we saw for the notable scores. A bunch of teams 1-1 right now. Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman, Maine, Delaware also is a win. Really, the only team that could very well be out of it early is Howard. They do have an 0-3 conference record. Carlos Saturday is injured for the Bison, so that's not helping their cause either. But right now, South Carolina State, they are in the driver's seat. They are undefeated right now. They are ranked in the top 25 as well. That's another thing to go with it. So we'll see if South Carolina State can continue their strong start and work their way into that conference championship hunt. As for the Big Ten, looks it was a very open conference last year and could be looking that way, going into season number 2. Don't see anybody ranked with the exception of Southeast Missouri State. They are the highest ranking team in this conference, but Tennessee State was in there until their loss to Indiana State. Tennessee Martin, they got some preseason love, but an 0-3 non-conference start kind of dashed that. Youngstown State was ranked in the top 25, but they are 1-2 since that first top 25 ranking. So they've kind of fallen on hard times. Looking at the rest of the conference, seems like everybody does have a win with the exception of Western Kentucky, who is 0-3 right now. Should be interesting to see how this conference race unfolds. As for the Big 12 conference, we'll start with the Northern Division. Big 12 looks much improved, especially on the northern side of things. Arkansas Pine Bluff particularly looking good early. They're 3-0 and they are receiving votes for that top 25. Chattanooga also looking improved as well after going 4-7 last year. They are also currently undefeated now. Conference play is starting here in week number 6, so maybe we'll see some conference games in the next episode. Alabama State and Alcorn State are doing okay, but Jackson State and Grambling State, they did make it to the conference championship last year. They are 0-3, as is the Jackson State Tigers. Meanwhile, out of the Big 12 South Conference, we might see a new conference champion, as right now, looks like it's going to be a 2-team race between Texas Southern and Western Carolina. The Catamounts were ranked in the top 25, but a surprising upset loss to Eastern Washington did set them back a little bit. They are still receiving votes, though. Alabama A&M and Mississippi Valley State, they have each won a game. And then Southern, the defending conference champions, got their work cut out for them, played themselves out of the possibility of making it in as a at-large. So if they want to go to the FCS playoffs again, they will need to win their conference. We'll have some work to do along with Prairie View A&M, who is also searching for their first win of the year. Now going over the Big East Conference, though, Princeton looking much more improved in conference last year. This was a team that did not win a single game last year. They are now 3-1. They're currently in a three-way tie for first place along with the Yale Bulldogs and the Dartmouth Big Green. They are both 1-0 thus far. Brown, the defending champions of the Ivy League, they have not played a conference game along with Columbia, who still is looking for their first win. But Harvard, Cornell, and Penn have each played a conference game. They each all lost. Penn particularly still looking for their first win of the entire season so far. I know that there was a hot take that Penn would win the Ivy League, but so far that's not looking that good. But it is still early in the season. Now, quickly going over Conference USA, we got a freeway tie. Well, technically Richmond is in the lead. They're 2-0 in conference play. They are a half game ahead of both Eastern Carolina and UCF. Towson, William & Mary, and Northeastern all are also trying to seek their first wins in conference play. Over on the west side, Hofstra also with a half game lead for the time being. They are leading over Rice and Tulane, who did just lose last week to Southeastern. SMU is 1-1, and then Charleston and Villanova also still seeking their first wins of the season within the conference. Now for the IA Independents, UMass is playing the best as of right now. Nobody ranked in the top 25 here, but do have a 3-1 team in UMass. They are receiving top 25 votes and honestly should be in the top 25, but have not received the love and respect they deserved yet. However, Temple, they were in the top 25. They're out at 2-2. Morgan State is 2-2, and then Rhode Island's also 2-2 as well. Very solid independent little area here to start the season. As for the MAC Conference, we have the defending national champions, Kent State. They are still riding high off of that longest winning streak in college football right now. I believe they are now up to 10 wins. Akron is here as well. They're 3-0, 1-0 conference record. Buffalo undefeated, but they haven't played a conference game yet. Indiana State, Ohio, and Illinois State, though, they are neither of these three teams have won a conference game. They dropped the conference opener. And the Illinois State Redbirds, currently winless, just like last year, still looking for that first win here in year number 2. As for the west side, we got Central Michigan and Ball State, along with Western Illinois, tied for first with 1-0 conference record. Eastern Illinois, they do not have a conference game yet on their resume, but Western Michigan and Southern Illinois do. They are 0-1 in conference action. Moving into the Mountain West, and the Mountain West does not have a conference championship game. Currently a 4-way tie for first between San Diego State, who's number 2, UNLV, who's number 15, but did lose to St. Thomas in non-conference play, Omaha, and Denver, who are trying to rebound after difficult season ones. Two other teams that are 1-1 in conference play, and that is Northern Iowa as well as Southern Missouri State with those 1-1 records. And then at the bottom, we got South Dakota State at 1-3, as well as the Kangaroos of UMKC and South Dakota, who are each 0-4 overall in the season. Now, the Pac-10 Conference is looking a little bit more intriguing as we are seeing some up-and-coming teams. Northern Arizona is a perfect example of that, undefeated, and they earned their first top 25 ranking in this series. They are now number 23 in the entire country. Montana and Weber State have also won conference games as well to go with it, so shout out to Weber State and Montana. North Dakota State, Idaho State, Eastern Washington, and Montana State are all teams that have not played a conference game as of yet, but shaping to be at least a pretty solid conference top to bottom. They do have 4 separate teams, I believe, that are in that top 25. North Dakota State, Montana, not Eastern Washington, but Northern Arizona and Idaho State all in here. So 4 out of 10 teams ranked. That's pretty good. Portland State, they did lose their conference opener. That dropped them to 2-1. Sacramento State, of course, 1-2 after their loss to Montana. And then North Dakota, kind of a little bit disappointing. They are 0-3, so still looking for their first win. In general, they are bringing up the rear for the Pac-10. As for the SEC East, for Georgia Southern, despite a difficult non-conference, not what they want to be, so maybe a team that might have to win their conference to get in. We'll just have to wait and see how all that unfolds. But they are currently half game ahead of everyone else in the East. Georgia Southern with a 2-0 conference record, but not a strong division though. Nicole State, Wofford, and Texas State, they're 1-0 in conference play, and that is their only overall win so far this year. Citadel is looking solid though, 2-2 overall with a 1-1 conference record. And McNeese State, only team in this division to not win a game so far this year. They're 0-1, and they do have a 1-2 overall record in the early going of this season. Now, as for the West Division, also looking not too good. Right now, a two-way tie for first place. But again, we're only a third of the way through. Elon and Sam Houston State are tied with 1-1 in conference play so far. Of course, we are not accounting for Northwestern State, who did make it to the conference championship game last year. They have not played any conference games yet, but I think they would be the team to, to win once again. But again, still very early in that regard. Southeastern Louisiana, they were ranked in the top 25. They fell off a little bit, 2-2 overall, and dropped the conference opener. Appalachian State also struggling early, 1-2 overall, and then Furman is bringing up the rear right now. They lost to Georgia Southern last week, and they are 1-3 overall, making them the weakest team in the SEC West. As for the Sun Belt, quickly going over the Sun Belt because there's no quote-unquote real FCS teams, right? Currently a three-way tie with Mid-Tennessee State, Florida Atlantic, and FIU. There is only one team ranked, and that is the Blue Raiders thus far. But again, that could change because definitely some good records. FAU and FIU could sneak into the top 25, given they are undefeated. So they are at least knocking on the door. And the last conference I wanted to cover was the WAC conference. Now, the WAC currently has a four-way tie of the season ending today. Stephen F. Austin is 1-0, as is both Utah State, San Jose State, and New Mexico State, who was ranked in the top 25, but definitely not the case anymore. As for who's a half game behind, you got Idaho, who's 2-2, and Southern Utah, the Thunderbirds, who probably, in my opinion, have one of the coolest names in this Dynasty universe. I really love the Thunderbirds name. St. Thomas, they pulled that signature win off of UNLV, but haven't done anything since. 0-3 since that win against a former #1 team in the country, but they are tied with Northern Colorado, as well as have a half-game lead in the WAC over Oral Roberts, who is the only team in this conference that has not won a single game yet. So guys, that is going to wrap things up here for week number 5, and let me tell you something right now. The action in this dynasty is only going to heat up, as next episode we have 5 top 25 matchups that we are going to be displaying for you guys, as well as feature at least one top 25 team in each of the 8 games that will be shown in the next episode. So you do not want to miss that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if I sound a little bit under the weather, I do apologize. You'll find at least a cold, so we are a little bit down bad here at the house. But anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, man, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button if you do happen to be brand new to the channel as well. This is John J. Gaming on the mic, signing off. I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.